Welcome to the Sound of Ideas from IdeaStream Public Media. I'm Stephanie Haney. Thank you for being with us. Two things you never want to hear together when you're thinking about your food are parasite and explosive diarrhea. But that's the current reality in 34 states as cases of cyclosporiasis have been on the rise since May, with this stomach bug causing severe diarrhea that can last for days and even weeks. Ohio is in the middle of a 4-state outbreak cluster, and there are other bugs public health officials are concerned about in our state, including high numbers of cases of Lyme disease spread by ticks. And be careful about getting bit by a mosquito, as several counties in Northeast Ohio have seen mosquitoes test positive for West Nile virus, though there hasn't been a human case yet, thankfully. We're going to talk about a range of nasty illnesses to start today's show. Joining me by video are two experts from Summit County Public Health. We have medical Dr. Erica Sobolewski. Dr. Sobolewski, thanks for joining us.
Yes, thank you for having me.
The medical director in Summit County, and also environmental health supervisor Sarah Cochrane. Sarah, thanks for being with us.
Hi, thank you.
Now, if you have questions about parasites, ticks, mosquitoes, or other public health issues, you can give us a call at 866-578-0903. You can also email us at soi@ideastream.org or message us on Instagram at The Sound of Ideas. We'll start with Dr. Sobolewski talking about this nasty parasite that has a lot of people feeling not great. Dr. Sobolewski, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, said earlier this week they don't know the source of the cyclosporiasis spread, but investigators are focusing on lettuce and other salad greens. What can you tell us about it and how it spread?
Yes, well, certainly top of the news all across the nation, and certainly in Northwest Ohio and Southeastern Michigan, we've certainly seen a spike in cases of cyclosporiasis. It can be very difficult to really track down where the source of this is coming from. Historically, it's tend to be lettuce, fresh fruits, vegetables, those type of things. So certainly that's where we're looking and suspicious of.
So we do know medical professionals have said that this parasite isn't spreading human to human. Do we know how it's getting on potentially the produce or in water even? Because that's a place it can also be. Where's it coming from this time around? Or is that something we just don't have the answer to?
Oh, well, we do have the answer to that, unfortunately. And as just as the explosive diarrhea is difficult to talk about, how this is spread is a fecal oral route. So it is, as it's passed through any animals, people, and that stool carries that parasite. It tends to be inactive, which is why we don't see it spread from person to person for 2 weeks. So we don't see that with indoor plumbing and those things in the United States. But in fields where things are fertilized and possibly just not totally washed adequately, we see that parasite living and then spread, of course, through our food.
The washing piece of it is particularly difficult from what I understand with this parasite. It kind of clings on.
It does cling on, but again, those core tenets of public health, washing your hands with soap and water and really washing. So I think the thing is we're in a fast society. We're all quick to do things, quick to eat, quick to move on. So we just run things under the sink quickly as we pass by and call it a wash. But we just really need to turn the faucet on, really let things wash appropriately. If you're going to have a fresh head of lettuce, peel off those outer layers and then wash, the inside as well to protect yourself a little bit better. Staying away from bagged lettuce, pre-washed lettuce as well, maybe a little safer choice at this time.
So you're talking about in a situation where you might choose to have lettuce. I'll be honest, I had a salad last night. A lot of people are opting not to do that. Is that something you would advise people to do in a restaurant setting? Have the salad, don't have the salad? What do you think?
So we certainly encourage people to eat healthy foods, right? Fresh fruits and vegetables as much as possible. But I think it's knowing what your own risk factors are. So certainly the people who are getting more ill with this are people who are immunocompromised, people who are elderly, people who would be more prone to get dehydrated with this. Some people, they have, watery diarrhea for a few days and things move on. the cases are probably much larger than we're seeing because a lot of people just resolve this on their own and don't need to seek treatment.
Mm.
But certainly you make those better choices. Get a fresh head of lettuce, peel off the outer leaves, eat the inside if you're going to eat lettuce. Maybe staying away from the salad bar if again, that's, you're more vulnerable.
Mm. And so if you do get it, maybe you get it, you didn't know it, maybe you do get it, maybe you're one of the people who has the more severe situation and you've got to take a course of antibiotics, which we've seen for some people. Can you get it again? Is this the kind of thing you build up immunities to?
Well, when you're infected, you're infected. And so a lot of people don't even test for cyclosporiasis. So we don't have a lot of good history of what people have and have not had in the past to even know, hey, I'm safe. I can just go out there and eat. Obviously, there's a lot more testing going on right now because people are suspicious and they hear about it in the news. So, listen to your body, reach out to a trusted health professional, if the situation arises and you need more care.
So you could get it multiple times? Is that what I'm understanding you say, Dr. Sobolewski?
Yeah, if you're infected with that parasite.
Okay. Now, we do know that there have been some hospitalizations due to cyclosporiasis. What does somebody need to be on the lookout for as maybe an indicator that you do need to seek emergency help?
So dehydration would be the biggest concern. So people who are having such prolific diarrhea, such watery diarrhea that they're not able to keep up with their fluids and perhaps need IV fluids, that's really who's going to need to be seen in a hospitalized situation.
Is there a way to know if this is the particular illness you have, cyclosporiasis, rather than some other foodborne illness?
So the only way to know is really to be tested. So it's a stool test that needs to be done to
Okay.
test for the parasite.
And not considered a deadly disease, no one has died yet. Are we optimistic about that continuing to be the case, or is there concern there that as this outbreak, if it continues, could escalate?
Well, certainly it's a public health concern. We want people to be aware of what's happening. The vast majority of people, the diarrhea resolves on its own. They do not require antibiotics. Really, only high risk populations need antibiotics or those who are very ill and hospitalized. So we've had a long track record of this throughout the years. Unfortunately, this is a year where we're having lots of cases. Typically within Summit County, we tend to have just a handful of cases each year, usually less than 7. In the last 2 years, I think it was 2025 was 4 and 2024 was 2. And those tend to be people traveling to tropical areas where cyclosporiasis is endemic.
Should we be concerned along the same lines of possibility of this escalating that Ohio has reported hundreds of cases, but our neighbor state, Michigan, has reported thousands of cases? Is that something we need to have our eye on here?
Well, the numbers are rapidly progressing. So the numbers are falling behind what's being reported because each day more and more cases are coming in. Expect to hear large numbers, expect to see that the numbers exponentially increase. Again, more people are aware of what's happening, so more people are being tested as well. So that's part of that, as well as there's just a lot of cases, so it's spread on a more wide range basis.
Sure. Certainly, we know that some people are having a very difficult time with this. Anecdotal reports of people running to the bathroom literally all day and all night long. Our hearts definitely go out to the people who are experiencing this on the much more severe end of the spectrum and anyone who's experiencing it at all. On this topic, on the topic of cyclosporiasis, last question, Dr. Sobolewski, is there one final piece of advice you would give to people to prevent it, which I know is a little tricky because we don't know the exact source, but any final breakdown we'd like to hammer home?
Yes, be cautious. Fresh fruits and vegetables, wash them well with running water for an extended period of time. Wash your hands, soap and water. Just practice good public health tenets.
Okay. If you're just joining us here on The Sound of Ideas, we are talking about some nasty bugs that we are experiencing here in Northeast Ohio. We just had a conversation about cyclosporiasis, the parasite that's leading people to experience explosive diarrhea. Now we're going to turn our conversation to Lyme disease caused by ticks and also mosquitoes that are carrying West Nile virus here in our area. Sarah, let's bring you into this conversation now. There's a concern that tick-related illnesses are rising dramatically in our area. Can you talk about how ticks spread that and other diseases to humans? humans?
Yes. So, a tick would have to bite a human and be attached for a period of time, typically at least 24 hours or more, in order to transfer the disease to the human.
Okay, Sarah, thanks for breaking that down for us. Now, Dr. Soboleski, what does Lyme disease look like in humans? How early do you need to catch a tick bite to be able to treat Lyme disease?
So over the last few years, we've just seen an exponential increase in Lyme disease in Ohio. Over 31% of the black-legged ticks that have actually been tested within the state are positive for the causative agent that causes Lyme disease. And in Summit County, that's even higher at almost 41%.
Mm,
So what you need to really be diligent is know what a black-legged tick is, okay? Be able to identify those and check your body for tick bites. Check for those ticks. As we're increasing, we're on the verge of becoming a high incidence state, which really changes the paradigm on what healthcare providers might do if you had a tick bite. When I started practice over 25 years ago, you had a tick bite, we looked for those signs. We looked for that rash, that bullseye rash that looks like the Target logo. The aches in the muscles, aches in the joints, those type of issues that happened and waited to treat. We might end up having to prophylax people if they have a bite, if that tick has been removed within the last 72 hours and that tick's been engorged and had a blood meal, because that's what's required to transfer that bacteria into the human to get Lyme disease. So it is really important to be very cautious to do those tick checks when you've been outside and practice the preventative things, because all things, if we can prevent them, that saves us a lot of hassle and following those things that Sarah recommends.
mm. Can you tell us two follow-up questions there, Dr. Soboleski? You said be able to identify that black-legged tick. How do we
Mhm.
identify that black-legged tick? And also, what does it mean when you've had to prophylax someone?
So again, lots of pictures on the internet. Encourage people to Google. I encourage people, if they're pulling out their tick, put it in a jar, take it to their physician so they can look at it, and so that they know what's actually bit them. Prophylax. So there's something called PEP, or post-exposure prophylaxis. So when we know somebody's potentially been exposed to something, then they take an antibiotic prior to becoming symptomatic to
Okay,
prevent the illness.
okay. Sarah, Ohio Health Director Dr. Bruce Vanderhoff said that increased temperatures, more humidity, and reduced extreme cold during winters are leading to more ideal conditions for ticks. What do you recommend when it comes to protecting yourself in the outdoors and hopefully avoiding a black-legged tick bite?
Yeah, so individuals can definitely take some steps and precautions into protecting themselves. Um, Individuals can try to stay out of tick habitat. So typically, ticks like wooded, tall grass areas. So if they are walking on a trail, we recommend that they try to walk in the middle, not up against any vegetation. But then also too, clothing is a big component as well. So ensuring that you're wearing pants, definitely want to try to tuck those into boots. And then wear light clothing. That way, if a tick is on an individual, they can see it better. Ticks range in color from like black to like a dark brown. So if you do have the light colored clothing, you can see them better that way. I also recommend individuals with long hair like myself to, pull it up. Um, Unfortunately, I like the outdoors, and a lot of times when I found ticks on myself, it's been in my hair because I did not take my own advice and put my hair up. Also, repellent, recommend using some bug repellent registered with the EPA. The EPA actually has a great tool on their website that individuals can use to decide which repellent is best for them based off of like criteria. Especially if they want something that's going to work with ticks and mosquitoes, or if they're going to be outside for an extended period of time.
Mm.
So yes.
Sarah, what is the proper way to remove a tick if you do find one on you?
Yeah, so the proper way to remove a tick is to get as close to the skin as possible, like where they bit, and just pull up gradually. Like you don't want to force it. Um, and this can actually take a little bit of time to like gradually pull them up. Like you just might have to like continue to go back and forth
Mm.
because their parts could remain in the body. If that is the case, you can talk with your healthcare provider. They might prescribe you something. Would obviously recommend cleaning that with like an alcohol swab afterwards. But if you work at it, you can get the whole tick out.
Mm.
Don't twist it though. And don't use like a lighter. Don't use. People are always like using petroleum jelly. Don't use that either. Just tweezers and just get down as close to the skin and just pull gradually,
Mm.
and it'll work itself out.
And you say it may take some time. Any idea? 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 45 minutes?
Definitely not like that long. It just might take like a few minutes to work its way out.
Okay. Good to know. Thank you there. Dr. Sobolewski, certain ticks can cause other illnesses. What else should people be aware of when it comes to different ticks, not the black-legged ticks?
Oh, there's lots of ticks, lots of zoonotic diseases that we talk about where there's vectors, whether it's ticks or mosquitoes. So we need to be careful of all bites that happen. In Ohio, certainly the black-legged tick is most important, but in other sections of the United States, it's different ticks that cause lots of problems. So there's a whole host of different genuses of ticks. Some people might have heard of like the longhorn tick, associated with alpha gal syndrome. And again, there's a whole host that can go on and cause lots of havoc. But that's part of what public health is here for, to be monitoring and seeing what's in different areas. Often it's the tick habitat and the weather that drives which ticks are where and cause which diseases.
And that alpha-gal syndrome, for people who might not be aware, that can potentially cause a life-threatening allergy to meat. For one example, we do know that's not necessarily being tracked here in Ohio. We don't have the case counts, but Dr. Bruce Vanderhoff did say that is an emerging concern.
It is. So we do a lot of surveillance in public health and monitoring of what we're starting to see in the hospital so that we know what's important, what we need to aware the public of. Certainly that is a very concerning allergy that occurs with the bite of that Lone Star tick. And it forces your immune system to sort of react to any type of mammal-derived product. So it can be red meats, it can be dairy products, and even certain medications and vaccines can cause life-threatening reactions. So it is important, if you're suspicious of having any type of issue, to certainly speak to your physician or an allergist.
Mm. If you aren't just joining us here on The Sound of Ideas, we are talking about the parasite that's been wreaking havoc on people's tummies, causing cyclosporiasis. We've also been talking about tick bites leading to Lyme disease, and we're about to get into a conversation about mosquitoes that have tested positive for West Nile virus. If you want to be a part of this conversation, the email is soi@ideastream.org, or you can call us at 866-578-0903. You can also send us a message on Instagram at The Sound of Ideas. We did get an email in from Richard related to our conversation about the parasite that's leading to those tough tummy issues. Richard said, your guest indicated to rinse vegetables. Is soaking in water preferred? Dr. Sobolewski, what do you think about that?
Absolutely. We want to get as much done, but it's that running water that has that force that's driving things off of the surface of the vegetable. Certainly being careful, raspberries, things that are really bumpy and things can get stuck in there. If you want to soak a little bit and then rinse, but definitely the running water has some benefit with that as well.
Okay. Let's talk about the West Nile virus found in mosquitoes. Sarah, there have been cases in mosquito pools confirmed in Summit County. Can you talk about the testing process?
Yeah. So yes, we have had a few pools that tested positive for West Nile virus. Um, the testing process is in a coordination with the state health department. So health departments just around the state of Ohio are involved in a mosquito control program, or they can have be part of a mosquito abatement district. But that just means that individuals are setting traps throughout communities, and we're specifically um, trying to trap the Culex mosquito, which is the mosquito that carries West Nile. So those traps are set in the evening, picked up in the morning, and then any mosquito that we catch is being put into vials and then sent down to the state for testing. The state will then notify us of our testing results. And yeah.
Okay. Sarah, we know that there have been no cases of West Nile in humans confirmed. How confident are we in that?
Um, I mean, I would say pretty confident. However, I'm not sure how often individuals are really getting tested, or what would be the concern. I don't know if Dr. Sobo could really
Yeah,
talk
I
on.
can jump in. I
Sure.
can
And
jump
I will
in.
say thank you very much for that, Sarah. Sarah, we appreciate your time today. That's Sarah Cochrane, Environmental Health Supervisor with Summit County Public Health. Sarah, we'll say goodbye to you now. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, Dr. Sobolewski, yes, can you tell us how confident are we in that no human cases of West Nile have been reported?
So West Nile virus is an interesting virus. So 80% of the people who get West Nile virus are really asymptomatic or subclinical. So there's a lot more West Nile virus being transmitted that actually people get tested for.
Mm,
So what we know about from a public health standpoint are those people who've been tested or our physicians are clinically suspicious. So, really, what we're getting reported is those severe cases that we hear about, those neurologic symptoms, where people get meningitis like illness or encephalitis, so swelling around their brain. Those are the cases that we tend to pick up when we're doing surveillance. Certainly, all those subclinical, asymptomatic, those people, the only reason we know about those are just with routine blood testing. They'll do some testing when people donate and they know that there's that much transmission. The other in between are some people have almost like a flu-like illness, which a lot of people don't go to their physician for. And if they do, they're probably not being tested for West Nile virus. Hey, you have a virus, let's see what happens, resolves on its own.
okay. When people do realize they have West Nile, are there treatments that are available?
So treatment is supportive. So being in the hospital, making sure their fluid's okay, making their respirations are supported, their oxygen's supported. That's what happens in those severe cases. Otherwise, there's no specific treatment.
Okay. Dr. Sobolewski, I want to ask you about the air situation that we're experiencing right now that many of us woke up to this morning in Northeast Ohio. The
Yes.
National Weather Service says we're under an air quality advisory that goes until midnight tonight in code maroon, which means air population concentration within the community is extremely hazardous for the general population. What can you tell us about this? What should we know? How can we make sure we're taking care of ourselves?
Yes, definitely gray as I was driving to work this morning in the air. So, the important thing to do is to know what to do and what not to do. If you're a vulnerable group, so you're a young child, an older adult, you might have asthma, chronic pulmonary disease, or any kind of heart condition, really you should just stay inside. Stay indoors, keep the windows closed, and wait for this to pass. If you have to go outside, wearing like an N95 mask that can, if you're real sensitive to fire particles because of that floating around in the air. But it really delaying driving just because of the emissions from the vehicle, we don't want to add to the air quality issues. And really, if you have to put gas in your car, wait till after sunset.
Mm,
What should you not do though? Please just strenuous exercise, outdoor exercise. It's not worth taking the chance this will pass, and just, delay those activities that you might have wanted to do outside today. And certainly not adding to the debris in the air by burning leaves or trash, those type of things.
We are expected to get some rain on Saturday. Is that something we should be concerned about with the air quality right now? Will the rain have any impact on any long-term effects we might feel related to this air quality alert?
Typically, rain helps because it helps push that particulate down to the ground, so it'll take it out of the air. So that's usually helpful. Um,
Okay, good to know about that. Thank you very much.
Yep.
Dr. Sobolewski, one more question we want to ask you before we let you go here. There have been some cuts to the Centers for Disease Control's food surveillance program. There's been some attention on the fact that the agency reduced its long-term surveillance for cyclospora and other pathogens last year, as we were talking about the intestinal illness, cyclosporiasis, that's caused by that parasite. That's what we started the show talking about today. Can you tell us how Summit County relies on information that's gathered in the program called FoodNet? Tell us a little bit about FoodNet and if you're concerned about the ability to get information related to long-term disease trends.
Obviously, I'm an advocate for public health, and the more information we have, the better. So it's always sad when there's cuts to something that we feel adamant about that keeps our community happy and healthy. The issue in public health really is we never know what's happening from year to year, month to month, week to week, and even day to day. So there's a lot of background, silent, what I call ninja work that nobody really knows about. It's that surveillance of what's happening. So just like I spoke about before, within Summit County, we have less than a handful of cases of cyclosporiasis each year. Within the state, it's always less, it's like 75 to 80 cases per year. So it doesn't seem like a lot until all of a sudden it is a lot. And those things quickly turn on a dime. And it's difficult to predict what the next thing's going to be. So we really need that background work to really focus on being able to maneuver on a dime and pivot and check these outbreaks.
Okay, thank you for that insight there, and thank you for the time, Summit County Public Health Medical Director, Dr. Erica Sobolewski. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
We're going to take a quick break now. When we come back, we'll talk about bugs that help our environment thrive. Bees, and we'll fill you in on the buzz about a new community park just for them in the Southtown district of Medina. This is The Sound of Ideas. I'm Stephanie Haney. We'll be right back. Here with The Sound of Ideas from IdeaStream Public Media, I'm Stephanie Haney. Thank you for staying with us. There is something abuzz in Medina County. The Medina Bee Park is now open for human and winged visitors alike. What was once an unused loading dock has been transformed into a vibrant community space for residents, featuring art by Northeast Ohioans, native pollinator plants, and a stage for live entertainment. The $25,000 project is led by Main Street Medina and partially funded by the Medina County Beekeepers Association. Here to tell us more about the park and Medina's long history of beekeeping, we have guests with us. We have Manfred Heck with us, who is with Main Street Medina, the Associate Director. Hello, Manfred.
Hello, Stephanie.
We also have joining us Peggy Garnes, President of the Medina County Beekeepers Association. Hi, Peggy.
Good morning, Stephanie.
Thanks for being with us. If you'd like to join the conversation, you can give us a call at 866-578-0903. You can also email us at soi@ideastream.org or send us a message on Instagram at The Sound of Ideas. Manfred, the average person might not understand the concept of enjoying the company of bees. So can you tell us a little bit about humans and bees and how they're coexisting at the Medina Bee Park?
Yeah, I should probably clarify that. So there's an element of bees that is part of Medina's history. And we wanted to take a corner of our Southtown and bring a little bit of nature to that corner of the town. So what we did is we put together a small committee and started to come up with ideas of how we could beautify basically an underutilized dock of a spare warehouse and make it into a beautiful place that people could gather, listen to music, take a break after they've gotten off the bike path or enjoy a coffee after some time at the Farmers Exchange. So the idea was to create a gathering space that was bee themed, that people could then sit and enjoy in what is a bit more of a commercial area in town, but it feels like a bit of nature was dropped in there.
Oh, okay. So people should expect bees to be there, though, correct? It's not just bee themed. Bees are encouraged and there are actual actions being taken in the bee park for bees to be there. Is that right?
Yeah, so in Southtown, we've put 16 different planters around Southtown, 3 of them in the bee park that are planted now with native pollinator plants. So the plants are designed specifically to attract bees and continue to support their population in the community.
And Peggy, I understand Medina has a rich bee culture. Manfred was telling us about it there just a little bit. Can you tell us why it's important to you to uphold that history and make sure that Medina maintains its presence as a good, welcoming place for bees?
Well, Medina has their honeybee connection goes way back to the 1800s with A.I. Root. We're all pretty familiar with the Root Company, the candle factory down on Liberty Street, and he was one of the founders of the bee industry. He was the one that developed the mass production of equipment, and the manufacturing facility was located on the railroad tracks going north and south and east and west, so he could ship all over the country. So way back then, we had that connection. And to this day now, there is the 7th generation that's doing the candle production, a wonderful place to visit. And we're just so lucky to be able to provide, like Manfred was saying, a comfortable setting for people to come and enjoy this project
Sure.
here in Medina.
We also have George Sam with us now. He's the executive director of Main Street Medina. George, welcome to the Sound of Ideas.
Thank you.
George, I want to ask you a bit about this project. We know the Medina Bee Park has just kind of been opened for business, for buzzness, as you might say. What was the process like in getting the Medina Bee Park up and running? How long did that take?
Well, it was in short term, really. We started an annual campaign back in the fall, and we raised a lot of money because people were interested in the project. But it had been something that it had been planned for quite a while. The Southtown District neighborhood is mostly an industrial neighborhood. It doesn't look as pristine as the square in Medina with all the historic buildings around it and the gazebo in the middle. That little neighborhood just struggles a little bit with some attention. So we decided to give it some. So we started a design project for the Southtown District neighborhood, and the Bee Park was part of what we considered to make it more pedestrian friendly down there, so that there was a little more areas to walk around and to enjoy. Plus, we wanted to take some areas that didn't look so good, maybe had been neglected for a while, and to kind of dress it up. So the Bee Park, I don't know if this was mentioned by Manfred or not, but the Bee Park location is an old manufacturing facility that happened to have like a loading dock area that they weren't using. So we took that on as our new Bee Park, and they were very great at partnering with us and allowing us to do that.
Sure. Peggy, how involved was the Medina County Beekeepers Association in making this park happen and in its continuing operation?
Well, we were very fortunate that when we learned of the project and attended some of the meetings in the planning process of it, that we were able to donate some funds to, get some nice, comfortable, like lawn chairs and some picnic tables, things like that, so that people had a comfortable spot to stay. But we were real happy to be able to donate to this project.
Manfred, how was the community involved during the development of the Medina Bee Park?
Well, the community response has been great, both from, as George mentioned, the annual appeal. We raised half of our funds from well over a couple hundred donors, on average committing over $100 each to support this effort. And then, as Peggy mentioned, we did put together a small Bee Park committee, and that included both residents, it included some local artists, included a landscape designer, it included some folks with plant expertise, specifically from Medina County Soil and Water. And then Peggy was able to join and give us a lot of wise insight on honeybees.
And George, how does the Bee Park fit into the bigger plan for Main Street Medina's revitalization efforts?
You know, we are very proud to have a great relationship with the city of Medina and our nonprofit partners. So we see this as another collaboration that has been successful in our community. You know, that area down there, like I said, was owned by Medina Supply Company, so you have manufacturing. Then the city came on and leased the parking lot right next to the Bee Park. So the city took on the lease for that, and they took on the lease for the Bee Park itself. So you know, it's a big collaboration, and I think it's part of what would like to say continues in Medina, and that's the development of Medina with the partnerships of the city, the county, nonprofit organizations, and just people that live here.
And as we talked about a bit earlier, there is a stage for live entertainment in the Medina Bee Park, George, and there's an opportunity for that coming up soon, I think in mid-August. Can you tell us a bit about
That
the
is
Southtown
correct.
Arts and Music Festival?
Yeah, so the Southtown Arts and Music Festival is on August 22nd, which is a Saturday, and it's all day long. It's from 11 a.m. until about 10 p.m. And the Bee Park will be featured. Again, it's the first time to have the stage used there for us, so we'll have a couple bands during the day as part of the whole event. There's multiple venues happening at multiple locations, and the Bee Park will be featured as one of the stages for that event.
And even sooner, there's a Bee Festival coming to Medina. Peggy, can you tell us about the Bee Festival?
Oh, this is a wonderful free event to the public. It's going to be held this Saturday at the Medina County Library from 11 to 3 p.m. There'll be over 1,000 people that come to this event. The Medina beekeepers, again, are very fortunate to be able to be volunteering at like 5 different stations for honey tasting and candle rolling and the observation hive. And weather permitting, we're going to open a live hive on the front lawn. Of course, we're going to be in a tent, keep our little bees with us, so we can take them home afterwards. But yes, come by this Saturday. It's at the public library, which is about a block north of our Bee Park now.
All right. Well, thank you very much for that. I want to thank our guests for telling us a little bit more about the Medina Bee Park. Peggy Garnes, president of the Medina County Beekeepers Association. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you again for this opportunity to share information.
Thank you. Also, Manfred Heck, associate director of Main Street Medina. Manfred, thanks very much.
Appreciate the opportunity to share more about this. Thank you.
And thanks as well to George Sam, executive director of Main Street Medina. George, thank you.
Thank you, and I'd like to remind everybody, if you want to learn more about the Bee Park, go to mainstreetmedina.com/bee-park.
There you go, mainstreetmedina.com/bee-park. Thank you, George. If you missed any part of today's show, you can find this and every episode of The Sound of Ideas wherever you get your podcasts and on video on Spotify and the IdeaStream Public Media YouTube page. To get the last word on today's topics, you can email us at soi@ideastream.org and find us on Instagram at The Sound of Ideas. Tomorrow on The Sound of Ideas, it's the Friday Reporters Roundtable hosted by Mike McIntyre. This week, he's joined by Connor Morris and Matt Richmond at the Idea Center, and IdeaStream Statehouse News Bureau Chief Karen Kassler joins from Columbus. Friday afternoon, I'm hosting a City Club forum kicking off our week-long IdeaStream Explores Property Taxes series, looking at where we are now and how we got to this place, where people are upset about property taxes, while so many programs and services rely on them. Then on Monday night, you can join us live out in the wild for our next Sound of Ideas community tour, looking ahead at the future of property taxes. I'll be at the Cleveland Metro Park Zoo talking with people who work in the fields that need the support of property taxes, along with people who want reform and even hope to abolish property taxes altogether. The conversation gets going around 6 p.m. The event is free and open to the public. You can register at ideastream.org/community tour. I'm Stephanie Haney. Thank you for keeping the conversation going. If you don't join me tomorrow for our City Club panel, I'll see you back here on Monday. Have a great weekend, everybody.
The Sound of Ideas is produced by Rachel Rood, Lee Barr, Drew Mazius, and Aya Cathy. Chris Dudley and Samson Auble provide technical assistance. Jane Ungesser and Nagal Kaufman are at the controls of the Ohio Channel broadcast, and our host is Stephanie Haney. Thanks so much for tuning in.